Welcome to Shaping Healthcare, a podcast by CitiusTech. I'm your host, Laurel Rockall.
Joining us today is Erin Johnson, Assistant Vice President of Life Sciences at Citius Healthcare Consulting. Erin is focused on driving process improvement and developing cutting-edge strategies to create impactful editorial content for clients in the life sciences sector. Join us as we dive into the transformative role of digital and omnichannel marketing in the pharmaceutical industry. Erin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. So happy to be here.
Well, very happy to have you. I want to first start, before we get into our conversation, just want to start off with a little bit about you and your journey in the pharmaceutical and healthcare industries. What inspired you to focus on omnichannel marketing?
Sure, great question. So I've been in the pharmaceutical healthcare space for the entirety of my career, way back when I was involved in B2B healthcare publishing, which over the years kind of morphed into more agency stints in client services, project management, and tried and true account management. But I've always really had a passion for pharmaceutical advertising, and that's where I've spent the majority of my career. As you mentioned, my most recent experience has been working on J&J Pharmaceuticals. I've worked for GSK brands, Merck, to name a few. And I think what's really inspired me to focus on omnichannel marketing, because I've always really had an interest in outcomes-based marketing in my career, kind of serving as an extension of the brand stakeholders in my work as an account manager. And I've really been intrigued at the shift that's taking place from what used to be called multi-channel marketing, which is now morphed into tried and true omnichannel. It's much more of a robust, multi-pronged approach to pharmaceutical advertising. It's not really limited to any one medium like websites or print ads. And I think that's really what this business is all about, is evolving with the ebbs and flows that kind of come with all the challenges and opportunities, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Absolutely. So this is something you've always done, and now there's this more, as you mentioned, more robust, a growing field of being able to really apply your talents in multiple ways. And we say omnichannel marketing now, and I guess it would be good to start with a definition on what that means in the context of pharmaceuticals. So can you define omnichannel marketing in pharmaceuticals, and why has it become so critical in today's landscape?
Yeah, great question. So omnichannel marketing is really an integrated approach. It ensures seamless, consistent customer experience, again, from multi-channels. So that's not limited to, it's online and offline channels, not limited to print ads. It's social media, it's digital platforms, it's apps. These last few years, it's AI and some other tools such as that. And the strategy really involves interconnecting with various touch points through these different channels to create a cohesive patient journey for healthcare patients and their patients alike. There's been a tangible shift in the market over probably the last decade, and omnichannel has really been at the forefront of that. I mean, you'll see it all the time now, folks that are applying for new roles or looking at kind of broadening their horizons. There's a real desire for tried and true omnichannel strategists. And I would liken that shift to how it's enabled us to kind of enhance the customer experience by providing this consistent personalized content. I mean, people, we complain about kind of behavioral targeting ads and that sort of thing, but really that's where we get to the nuts and bolts of personalization for folks and promoting products to kind of foster meaningful interactions. So it's really meant to engage customers where they're most active. And I think that an omnichannel marketing strategy is really essential for pharma companies to kind of remain competitive and make sure that they're effectively reaching their target audiences.
I was reading that pharmaceutical companies that are using omnichannel personalization can have acquisition costs increase marketing budget efficiency by 10 to 30%, and also increase revenue by 5 to 15%. That was according to a McKinsey digital report.
It's huge. Yeah.
And that was from an article written back in 2016. And so I can only imagine how much the more things have evolved since then. And
yes,
when, especially, in healthcare and tech and pharmaceuticals, like all these different industries that are evolving rapidly, how has, especially in the past few years, how has that really evolved? Like, what are the key trends that are really shaping the future of this approach?
Yeah, so I think it's evolved in a multitude of ways. Like I said, the shift from traditional marketing, which used to be heavy on print ads. I mean, even even working in the pharmaceutical agency space, I think a lot of folks can tell you, having gone through that process. I'm going to age myself here, but there even used to be you'd physically walk job bags around to get markups and things. I mean, the whole world is turned on its head, and we're kind of getting away from that. So, companies have moved from this isolated marketing channel to these more integrated approaches. And what's helping to feed into that is data analytics. So the use of data and how we measure a return on investment is really helping to drive how we target customers and understand their behavior, and then conduct follow-up research and kind of go back and do patient case studies and that sort of thing. So for example, something like a personalized email follow-up or a targeted social media ad, even educational webinars, those have really become common practice to help engage healthcare professionals and patients alike. So as far as key trends are concerned, there definitely seems to be an increased focus on compliance, as you mentioned. So like I was talking about with the job bags, the regulatory process is a really critical component that people, frankly, it's a factor in any soup to nuts pharmaceutical work that you're doing. So some of these advanced technologies that we're using through Omnichannel are helping companies to maintain regulatory standards and be compliant. I mean, it's no secret, unfortunately, in this industry that every other day we feel like we're reading something in the headlines about a lawsuit or a malpractice issue. And so compliance really needs to go hand in hand with omnichannel marketing. And I think that it does. I think people are very attuned to that. And there's also been this kind of positive pattern of patient-centric marketing. So moving away from just your standard, promotional advertising. And yes, you're targeting HCPs, but what are they most concerned with? They're not only concerned with compliance, they're concerned with how they're marketing to their patients effectively, because it is such a competitive landscape, and how they can support them in their treatment journey. I mean, there's so many competing drugs on the market. So what really makes that stand out for them? And I think this has really led to the success of a number of HCP-led apps and marketing tools, things that we just haven't had access to previously.
That's really interesting that you say that, Erin, because people are getting much more targeted advertisements in general, like especially on social media. I think is like a really good example that people can connect with. And in an industry, especially with pharmaceuticals, that's increasingly focused on patient outcomes and making sure that it's tailored to to the right people that it's trying to meet there and be in the eyes of. How can digital marketing strategies be tailored to meet the unique needs of patients in this sort of field?
I would say two words: targeted messaging. And this really, as I mentioned, allows for the creation of personalized content. So, let's say you go on Amazon, right? And you're searching for something in particular that you're buying for a gift. And then suddenly all of your ads are categorized and tailored in such a way that the next time you go on that website, there's additional content that's related to that. I mean, the same is true of any kind of social media pattern. And it's a catch-22, because some of this drives us crazy after a while and can be redundant. But other times we think, that's really great and it's customized and it's unique to me. And that's really, when I say targeted messaging, that's really the approach that we want to take. So, implementing dynamic content on websites, on emails that changes based on patients' interactions and preferences can help ensure that that information is always engaging and relevant to them. This could be done through the use of educational materials, articles you read, videos, infographics, all the social media platforms, and it will help enable HCPs rather to allow their patients to kind of understand their conditions and treatments. And this really builds a rapport and trust between the patient and the HCP.
With that personalization, as wonderful as it is, and how you're wanting to get in front of specific people, it feels like it could be a fine line with some of those regulatory organizations and practices that you mentioned earlier. How do you balance that need for the tailored content with the patient privacy and data protection concerns?
Yeah, it can be tricky. I say compliance is top of mind for us, but at the same time, it can be forgotten, and what I mean by that is having attended many of these regulatory meetings myself, or even trying to argue one side or the other, you don't realize going in that some things might be flagged or seen as, claims heavy. And so a good rule of thumb is to really only collect what is absolutely necessary data that's essential for creating that personalized content. So the bare bones information that can help you predict that content. And this reduces the risk of data breaches and ensures compliance with privacy regulations, which are certainly top of mind. It's really important to adhere to the rules of informed consent and even encryption where possible too.
To dig a little further into that, how do you ensure that those digital marketing efforts do comply with regulations, but still are effective and engaging and getting in front of the right people and being educational for them?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of tools on the market that are available today with compliance regulations. Some are proprietary to the company and some are more readily available, and you can certainly purchase a license. But they include specialized compliance software, basically, that helps you to manage and monitor the compliance across all the digital marketing activities. So these tools are really meant to help track regulatory changes and ensure that the content is meeting the standards. There's a lot of tools on the market today that will not only, we think about those kind of checks and balances, and we think, oh, it's pulling out grammatical mistakes, or it's like running, Microsoft Word and checking for those kinds of errors. But it's a little more tailored and customized than that, which is really nice. Thanks to the use of AI and some other tools, you can actually use that predictive technology to even feed that into the software platform, and it will help predict and make strategic suggestions, which in omnichannel strategy is huge. I mean, it's not meant as a supplement to human interaction, certainly, but it's a really nice add-on. And, implementing these automated systems to monitor digital campaigns, for instance, in real time will help you it helps allow for the quick identification and resolution of these issues, which is great.
Yes, absolutely. And you mentioned AI a couple of times throughout our discussion together, and there's certainly multiple emerging technologies. I think AI is always at the front there across many industries. It's always a buzzword, it seems like. But what emerging technologies do you believe will have the biggest impact on digital marketing strategies when it comes to the pharmaceutical sector? And then how can companies leverage those sorts of technologies to enhance their marketing effectiveness?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, AI, huge component. The use of augmented and virtual reality, so AR and VR is another one. Voice-activated technologies like ChatGPT and other tools, Microsoft Copilot, for instance, and similar platforms, they've really started to take off. The flip side of that is that we hope that it doesn't create an interdependency or supplement human interaction and human communication as text messaging and social media is done. But, optimizing content for these kinds of voice search tools is becoming really essential to ensure that patients can easily find the relevant information that's tailored for them. What we call conversational AI can also help provide instant support and information for patients. So that in turn is helping to kind of enhance their engagement and their overall experience. But there's a hesitancy in using these tools for the reasons I mentioned. There's a fear associated with it that it's going to eliminate the personalized approach, or it's going to become too robotic or cookie cutter. But, as with anything, you caution if you use the tools correctly, they can be a fantastic, again, supplement, not meant as a supplement, but rather a supportive tool in reaching patients. And education is key component to enhancing all of the market effectiveness related to that.
That's really interesting. And yeah, I appreciate the touching on that human aspect of it still too. So people can feel like they're still connecting with somebody, especially I think when it comes to healthcare, the feeling like there's a human there with you in it. But there are a lot of really interesting tools, I guess, it's the best word for it, tools in the toolbox there to best connect with patients and clients. When we're looking ahead then, to continue looking to the future of an ever-evolving field, what do you see as the biggest challenges or the biggest opportunities for pharmaceutical companies when they're adopting and trying to optimize their omnichannel marketing strategies?
Well, there's huge opportunities for improved HCP relationships. Omnichannel strategies result in it's proven that it's resulting in increased efficiency and return on investment by optimizing, resource needs and resource allocation, reducing those risks of redundancies. And if you couple this with the ability to analyze data in real time, which is really key, that is going to help provide companies the ability to kind of quickly adapt their strategies based on trends in the market and feedback in an effort for them to also stay relevant. There's a number of challenges. The risk for data breaches, as I mentioned, and compliance remains a constant area of concern, and it requires an investment of time and resources too. In order to be compliant, you can't be complacent. So while the reward is often felt with almost immediate results, there's definitely going to be obstacles in any situation.
Yes, that's a really great way to put it. The staying compliant and not complacent. But also, as you mentioned, the speed at which companies can be able to stay on top of their connection with their clients and the people that they're staying in front of. And along with that, maybe what kind of advice would you offer somebody in this pharmaceutical sector to enhance those digital marketing strategies then?
Yeah, I would tell them you definitely want to focus on producing value-focused branded content. Most of the time, that's what we're talking about in the omnichannel marketing space. It's typically branded content. Create content that is not only accurate and informative, but also engaging and branded. So it's constantly balancing that dichotomy. And again, this is going to help build that trust and authority in the market, which is going to make you stand out from the competition. And it's a very saturated market. Another key element is implementing SEO strategies tailored to the pharma industry that are using keywords, high value keywords, and those SEO audits that you're conducting to improve that visibility in search engines. A lot of people, I think, used to feel like a very niche area, and we talk about paid media. But if you're involved in omnichannel strategy, everybody has to be aware and be using these tools and be very mindful of search engines and what can be coming up and how the same is true if you're looking for a job, for instance. What are the different terms that you want to include in your resume that are going to get you seen by, some of these technologies, unfortunately. Another one, and I say this myself for my generation, we make fun of social media influencers sometimes, but you know what, leveraging them, it can be a surprising approach too, because if you're collaborating with healthcare professionals who can authentically promote your products and services, then you're not only enhancing your credibility, but you're appealing to a broader audience. And there's a number of, as with anything, there's some less credible resources, but there's a lot of really great ones too. So we shouldn't be afraid to, look to enhance the digital marketing experience. And lastly, I would say utilizing email marketing, developing targeted email campaigns, which again is tricky because so many of us have our inboxes flooded every day. I can only imagine how it is for HCPs. So how can you hook them right out of the gate, keep them informed about new products? Frankly, make sure that they're opening the email period. And that's, again, where personalization comes into play.
So great answers. SEO optimization, meaningful collaborative partnerships, with social media, and those are all really great paths to take. And when we're looking ahead, then as we're kind of reflecting on our conversation today and then looking ahead to the landscape of digital marketing for pharmaceuticals over the next few years, kind of put that sort of timeline on it. That could be very broad because everything can change in months to years. If you could predict maybe one major change, what would that be?
Yeah, I don't think my answer will come as a surprise, but it's increased use of artificial intelligence, of AI, to drive these hyper-personalized marketing strategies. And again, I don't think it's something that we should shy away from because it's here to stay. Like all up-and-coming technologies, there's a beta stage, but I think we know enough to be dangerous right now to use it as an effective tool, and it's becoming a lot more sophisticated. It's helping to analyze that data and not just supply that kind of cookie cutter content. And it can help provide, predictable patient needs and help provide that personalized content by anticipating that. Like I said, when you're feeding in that source material and brand specific content, the technology is so astute now that it can actually make strategic recommendations. So, this is just going to continue to help drive effective communication and stronger relationships between HCPs and patients. And it's something to be excited about.
Absolutely. Yeah, adding to that toolbox.
Yeah.
Well, Erin, thank you so much for sitting down with me today and
Thank you.
chatting with me about this and bringing your experience and your passion to this topic today. And we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
The Shaping Healthcare podcast is brought to you by CitiusTech, a leader in healthcare consulting and IT services. To find out more about CitiusTech, visit CitiusTech.com. To listen to more interesting insights on healthcare technology and innovations, search and subscribe to the Shaping Healthcare podcast. Thank you for listening. If you want to share any feedback or would like to be featured in our podcast, do write to us at citiusvision@citiustech.com.